With that affirmation, then, Mr. Wood, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you. And before I do, can I just verify with the court that State's Exhibit 77 has been admitted?
Yes. Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Douglas, can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Michael Douglas, Douglass.
What is your occupation?
I'm a forensic accountant,
And who do you work for?
the FBI or the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
How long have you worked for the FBI?
Nearly 7 years. I'm close enough.
And what work did you do before that?
I was a tax and fraud auditor for the State Tax Commission for 4 years.
Is there a title beyond forensic accountant that we should call you, or is Mr. Douglas okay?
Mr. Douglas is fine.
Okay. And tell me what a forensic accountant does.
In sum, we review electronic and financial data, create a financial analysis, provide this information to the investigative team, discuss this with the prosecutors, hold interviews with subjects and witnesses, and testify to our findings.
Right. And when you do a forensic accounting, do you just look at bank accounts, financial records? Do you take other, well, I'll just ask it like that. Do you only look at bank accounts and financial records?
No.
What else do you do?
Individual search history usually provides additional data where they might be banking at. So search history is one. Apps that they have on their phone would be another. So in some electronic data, as well as the financials, provide us additional information where to search records.
Right. And in terms of your investigation overall, do you look at an investigation as a whole when you're doing a forensic accounting to see how the finances might affect other events?
We do, yes.
How did you become involved in the case regarding Mr. Daybell?
My office had been involved with the investigation for a few months before I was inquired to be upon the investigation or in the investigation. I was told that there was a voluminous amount of financial records and requests that had gone out, and sought out to review that information.
And so tell us about some of the work you did. How did you get started? What did you do first?
A lot of the work had been done for me before I got on. The PD had sent out multiple search warrants and subpoenas for the financial records, some travel information. And then when I was brought on around March of 2020, a lot of the records were starting to come in, and started reviewing just as it trickled in, and built a large spreadsheet of whose account, whose transactions these were, what bank they were affiliated with. And it got to the tune of nearly 80 bank accounts and credit cards.
All right.
Savings.
And you said the PD. Can you tell the jury
Sorry.
what the PD is?
The Rexburg Police Department. Sorry.
And so you worked for the FBI, but you worked with the Rexburg Police Department at some level in this case.
I did.
All right. And I'm sorry, you said approximately 80 accounts were looked at.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that can I have the witness be handed State's Exhibit 111? Detective, is part of, well, I'll wait till you get that. Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 111?
I am.
What does it purport to be?
This is a timeline that I created regarding Tylee's bank account records, including her JP Morgan Chase account and her BBVA, or as I also call it, her Compass account, and the transactions that took place monthly in each.
Is the full name of BBVA Compass?
It's a Southern bank, but yeah, BBVA Compass is the full.
And so as part of your investigation, did you do a review of Tylee's finances?
I did.
And what did that entail?
So with Tylee's, originally we had a much smaller, we had to send a supplemental request to get the full data. Tylee was a minor, so she had a bank account with her mother, Lori. And this included what will be noted as in blue as the JP Morgan Chase account, 3918 deposits. Tylee was receiving Social Security, as I'll discuss later, from the death of her father, Joe Ryan. And these deposits, that's what the blue indicates. The orange is indicative of the transactions that were taking place in this account. And then Lori and Tylee opened Tylee's BBVA Compass account ending 5794. The deposits that go into this, I'll explain later. These come from an account that Lori had with BBVA. And then the withdrawals will be noted in red of the transactions that took place starting in August and in March of 2020.
And so on State's Exhibit 111, is this a document you created?
Yes,
And is it, is the purpose of this document to demonstrate the level of transactions in these accounts over a given period of time?
it is.
And did you prepare this
I did.
based on those bank accounts you just discussed?
Correct.
And did you do that in preparation for your testimony today?
I did.
Is it your belief that this would aid the jury in understanding the level of transactions over time in Tylee Ryan's bank accounts?
Yes,
And is this a true and accurate copy of what you created?
this is. Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 111 be admitted into evidence for demonstrative purposes.
For demonstrative purposes, there's no objection, Your Honor.
Very well. Exhibit 111 is admitted.
And may I publish?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
And Mr. Douglas, you kind of described it earlier, but can you walk us through how you created this document?
So the original data I took from the bank statements that came in from the bank, put that into an Excel spreadsheet, and then basically separated that data out monthly to show deposits and withdrawals that took place within the accounts, and over time, the change in the accounts specifically to August and September.
All right, and this graph represents the number of transactions, correct?
Correct.
Not a dollar amount.
No.
So what did you learn in your investigation as you put this together?
So first, I would like to say Tylee was very responsible with her money. I never saw a negative balance in her account, but this includes the deposits that were coming into her account, specifically from the money she was receiving from Social Security. And then as noted in orange, these were the monthly transactions, basically what I'll refer to as brick and mortar, as well as her electronic. She had electronic payments for her Apple account, her T-Mobile, as well as her Jeep that I'll discuss later.
And so on that graph, on August of 2019 to September of 2019, it appears there's a change in the number of transactions. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And why was that important to you in your investigation?
So Tylee had her JP Morgan account, as did her mother, Lori, had multiple JP Morgan accounts. Tylee was making her payments on time and had no reason for the change in her financial status. As I'll describe later, Tylee's Social Security payments get transferred from her JP Morgan account to her mother's BBVA account, her mother being Lori. To which it stays that way, like it never transfers back. This information in August shows that Tylee opens a BBVA Compass account, but the money that goes into it is transferred to her from Lori. Again, she doesn't ever get the money directly. I will also note that we'll discuss later that she had a job working for her uncle, Jeff Shiflett, Dr. Shiflett at J&S Investments too.
Right, and does that account for some of the deposits?
Yes, earlier in the beginning of 2019.
And again, just to clarify, those numbers just represent transaction numbers, not dollar amounts.
Correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed what's been marked as State's Exhibit 112.
Judge, could we approach briefly?
Yes.
Was a co-signer on, and they co-signed on this Jeep April 17th of 2019. And Tylee started making those payments June 3rd of 2019. And then as noted below, in July 11th of 2019, this is when Charles Vallow dies.
Right, and Charles Vallow was Tylee's stepfather.
Correct.
And this is still the same timeline, correct?
This is the same timeline.
Can you tell us about the first couple of boxes?
So I was given this information that through Lori's iCloud account that July 18th of 2019, Lori had texted Chad that she would not be receiving life insurance money regarding the death of Charles Vallow, but she would be receiving $4,000 a month Social Security. July 24th of 19, this is the last Social Security payment deposited into Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account, and in 3918.
Okay. It looks like on 8/12/19, this is kind of a different subject. What happened there?
So we found out that Lori had a life insurance policy in her name to the tune of $2 million. And there was a change made on this life insurance policy, making Colby Ryan, Tylee's older brother, the sole beneficiary or 100% beneficiary.
So she didn't include JJ or Tylee on that.
They weren't included, no.
All right. Your Honor, the court had asked us to stop at 2:20.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood.
All right, Mr. Douglas, I believe when we left off, we talked about the box marked 8/12/2019.
That's correct.
Tell us about the next couple of boxes in your timeline.
So on August 14th of 2019, Lori applied for her Rexburg apartment, and on the application, she stated that she was receiving $5,740 Social Security due to a dead husband. 2 days later, August 16th of 2019, Tylee's Social Security payments received a change to be deposited into Lori's BBVA account ending 3229. On August 19th of 2019, Lori and Tylee opened Tylee's BBVA account, which ends in the 5794.
And just really quickly, that is a separate account than the sole BBVA account of Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct. Lori's ended in the 3229, Tylee's ended in the 5794.
Tell us about the box with under 8/28/2019.
So this is when Tylee's Social Security payments start being deposited into Lori's account ending 3229.
And what happened next?
Okay. And then as noted below, we have the move to Rexburg with Lori and the children. And then on September 8th of 2019, while Tylee received a text message from Colby. Colby was inquiring from Tylee for her to send him some money via Venmo. This was a regular occurrence, to which Tylee responded back that she couldn't Venmo him money because mom gets her money now. On the same day, as I stated before, I don't just review financial records, we review electronic data as well. Noted that Chad had searched the wind direction, in his search history. And this is also the same day as the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan.
What do you have on September 9th, 2019?
On September 9th, we discovered an email from Lori to her accountant that she had with her husband, Charles Vallow, gentleman by the name of Mike Edson. He was their tax accountant, and she was inquiring about a tax refund she hadn't received yet.
And the next day?
And then on the next day, on September 10th of 2019, Tylee's BBVA account is added as what's called a funding source to Venmo. In short, Venmo is a person-to-person transfer of funds to which you have to link your bank account or your credit card to it. Tylee's BBVA account had not yet been set up on her Venmo account. It was still would have been drawing out of any funds that were in the JP Morgan Chase account.
All right. And then what's marked for 9/20?
And then on 9/20, the data that was provided to us by JP Morgan, this is when Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account is completely closed and the remaining amount was withdrawn.
What happened on 9/22?
As indicated below, this is the last known sighting of JJ Vallow. There's also text information regarding phones associated with Tylee, Lori, and Colby, where either Lori is messaging one or the other or receiving a message from them in request of starting on 9/22 of 19 and including the other dates, October 1st, October 14th, November 22nd, and November 25th of 19 of either requesting or stating that a Venmo payment would be sent to Colby.
And who was requesting Venmo payments?
Colby would request them, but these messages specifically were Lori either texting Tylee's account or Tylee's phone saying to send Colby money, or Lori would text Colby saying that she had transferred money into Tylee's account and Tylee would send the money to Colby.
What's the next event?
So on the bottom, on October 9th of 2019, this is a reported shooting at Miss Tammy Daybell. The following date,
Grounds. Response, Mr. Wood?
Your Honor, I think the evidence has shown so far that, especially with the way he said that is not an inaccurate statement.
All right, and I agree, looking at the time frame as well, or the timeline exhibit here, I'll overrule the objection.
What happened on October 10th?
On October 10th, so Venmo also provided the IP data regarding the transfers of the funds. And in regards to the IP data associated with Tylee's Venmo account on October 10th of 19, a transfer of funds from Tylee's bank account via Venmo was sent to Colby, with the IP being in Kansas City, Missouri.
And then if you just go through the last few boxes.
And then to finish up, on October 9th of 19, this is the reported death of Miss Tammy Daybell. On November 5th of 2019 being the wedding of Chad and Lori. And then on June 9th of 20 is the date that we discovered the bodies of Tylee and JJ.
And just to be clear, those dates are on there from what you testified to put this financial information in view of the complete timeline and investigation, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Douglas, we've been talking about Tylee and a financial timeline you prepared for her. In the course of your investigation, did you prepare a similar timeline for JJ and financial information regarding him?
I did.
Did you do that in preparation for your testimony?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 113. Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 113?
I do.
What does it purport to be?
This is a similar timeline, but for JJ.
And you just testified that you prepared this.
I prepared this.
And did you do so in an effort to aid the jury in understanding the financial records regarding J.J. Vallow?
That is correct.
And what did you use to create that timeline?
This one, there's similar data on this. Also included are some history from, again, Lori's her iCloud account, the rental agreement, and the Social Security and bank records.
And is that a true and accurate representation of the document you created?
It is.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 113 be entered into evidence.
All right. Very well. State's Exhibit 113 is entered and admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
Detective, is this the financial timeline we just spoke of?
It is.
Where does this timeline begin?
This one, due to JJ not receiving Social Security funds until later into 2019, I started this with the date that is reported to be when Chad and Lori met.
All right. And then what's the next event?
The death of his father, Charles Vallow,
And that was on,
July 11th of 19.
walk us through the next couple of boxes.
Again, Lori texting Chad about receiving the $4,000 a month Social Security, but not receiving the life insurance money. JJ was reported to have an emotional support dog or a support dog of nature. And this on October 9th of 2019 is reported that Lori had posted this dog for sale on Animal Direct. On August 12th of 19, again, the life insurance money or life insurance policy being changed to Colby to the tune of $2 million that did not list JJ on it.
All right. And then, and that was the same that was on Lori's, or I apologize, on Tylee's?
On Tylee's, correct.
And what's the next date and what happened then?
On August 14th of 19, again, this is when Lori applied for the apartment in Rexburg. She stated that she'd be receiving the $5,740 Social Security. And then moving to this information on the bottom, September 1st, the move of Lori and the children to Rexburg. 9/8 being the last known sighting at Tylee. And then on September 18th of 2019, this is when the Social Security payments regarding JJ were deposited into Lori's account.
And then what happened after that?
And then on September 22nd is the last known sighting of JJ. And then to finish out October 9th, again, October 9th of 19, the incident with Tylee Daybell, October 19th being the death of Miss Daybell, Chad and Lori's wedding on November 5th of 19, and the remains of the children being found on June 9th of 20.
Mr. Douglas, we've spent a fair amount of time talking about finances and Social Security, correct?
Correct.
At any time, did you prepare an exhibit that showed the amount of Social Security paid out to that Lori Vallow received on behalf of her children after their last known sightings?
I did.
What did you use to prepare that?
That includes Lori's BBVA account information solely because that's where the funds were being deposited at the time.
And did you prepare that in preparation for your testimony today?
I did.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding the Social Security payments being made in this case?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 114. I would note that there is a 114A and B in evidence already, but not 114.
All right, thanks for the clarification, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 114?
I do.
What does it purport to be?
This is the Social Security payment table that I created regarding the Social Security deposits being deposited into Lori Vallow's BBVA account.
All right, and is that a true and accurate representation of the chart you made?
It is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes, Exhibit 114 be entered into evidence.
All right, without objection, then Exhibit 114 is admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, can you explain how you put this chart together?
So this information is derived, again, just solely from the deposits of Social Security into Lori's BBVA account. As reflected on here, I labeled each account as to the individual that the money was being deposited from or the benefits from. And the benefits come from the information from the deceased fathers.
All right, and
Right.
under the section for Tylee, what is the first date you have marked?
The first date being October 23rd of 19.
And why is that the first date you put there?
We chose that date, or I chose that date, because Social Security is paid later or back paid. And I didn't feel that it was fair to include payments in September, even though given the time of death for Tylee, we felt that this was more accurate representation of the funds after the death of the child.
Okay, so that's the first payment she receives
Mhm.
after you believe that Tylee is deceased.
Correct.
And for JJ, is that I see a box marked 10/16/2019?
Correct. This would have been the first deposit of his. It is noteworthy that it's obvious that Tylee's deposits were different than JJ and Lori's, to the fact that this is when Tylee's benefits were being deposited into her JP Morgan account and carried forward. That was paid later in the month and on a separate date than JJ and Lori's deposits,
All right.
with the date being October 16th of 19.
And then it looks like you have two sections for Lori. Why is that?
I can't testify to the reason that the box with TCS Treasury 449 being less information given to me, that it could be due to bad debts. It could be college funds that weren't paid, but it was being docked for some reason, but I can't testify to it.
Okay, but is the reason it's in a different box, just that it's a different amount?
Yeah, that's how it's reflected per her bank statement.
And so, and is there a total amount of money received after what you believe to be the deaths of Tylee and JJ?
Yes, the grand total down the bottom right being the $22,545.05.
Thank you. Detective, as part of your investigation and preparation for today, did you prepare a timeline that identifies what you see as the theft of financial funds from the Social Security Administration?
I did.
How did you prepare that?
Again, given the information from bank statements and the social security information, the time of death of the children, search history reflected information, text messages, emails.
And is some of that information also reflected in the last two documents we've looked at?
That's correct.
But you've included other information as well.
I did.
Did you prepare that document in preparation for your testimony today?
Yes.
And did you do so in an effort to aid the jury in understanding this complete financial timeline?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 115. Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 115?
I do.
What is it?
Is what I titled the Grand Theft Financial Timeline.
And is this the document we were just speaking of?
Yes.
Is it a true and accurate representation of what you created to aid the jury in understanding this today?
It is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes, that Exhibit 115 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
Exhibit 115 is entered.
And may I publish?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, can you walk us through the first few steps of this timeline?
I will. Starting again with on April 3rd of 2018, the death of Joe Ryan, and June 14th of 2018, this is when the Social Security starts being deposited into Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account, ending 3918. When Lori opens her BBVA account, ending 3229 on October 23rd of 18. The life insurance proceeds being paid out to Lori on October 26th of 18, also being the same date that Lori and Chad met. The death of Charles Vallow on July 11th of 19. On July 12th, Lori's bank card, Bank of Hawaii, is used to make a payment to Value the Sun Mortuary, and this being the same day that Chad calls Value the Sun Mortuary.
Okay. And then what happened next?
On July 18th of 19, Lori texts Chad about receiving the $4,000 a month Social Security and not receiving the life insurance. July 24th of 19, this being the last date that Social Security is deposited into Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account, ending 3918.
you walk us through the first couple of boxes there?
On August 12th of 19, this being the date of the change to Colby for the life insurance of Miss Lori. On August 14th of 19, Lori applying for the Rexburg apartment, stating that she's receiving the $5,740 in Social Security. On August 16th of 19, this is when Tylee's payments are changed to be deposited into Lori's BBVA account ending 3229. On August 19th of 19, Lori and Tylee opened Tylee's BBVA account ending 5794. On August 28th of 19, this being the date that Tylee's Social Security deposit or payments being deposited into Lori's BBVA account ending 3229. Lori and the children moving to Rexburg on September 1st of 19. The text messages from Tylee to Colby that mom gets her gets her money now. And this is also the date that Tammy's life insurance with LifeMap was increased on September 8th of 19. And also this being the same date, the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan on September 8th of 19.
And what happened on the 10th?
On November 10th of 19, Tylee's BBVA account is as the funding source to her Venmo account.
And what happened on 9/18 of 2019?
On 9/18 of 19, this being the date that Lori and JJ's Social Security funds start being deposited into her BBVA account ending 3229. On September 22nd of 19, the text messages referring to the Venmoing money to Colby, also being the last known sighting of JJ on September 22nd of 19.
And if you can move to 10/9/19?
On 10/9, this being the date of the attempted shooting on Miss Tammy. On 10/10, this being the Venmo activity that took place in Kansas City, Missouri regarding Tylee's Venmo account. The death of Miss Tammy on October 19th of 19. Chad and Lori's wedding on 11/5 of 19. We recovered an email to a rental company named Kauai Dreams on 11/8 of 19, where Chad was inquiring, stating that they were a clean couple with no kids and no pets. On December 20th of 19, this is when Rexburg announced the investigation. January 3rd of 20 being the first search on Chad's property, and June 9th of 20 being the second search where we recovered the remains of the children.
Mr. Douglas, those last several exhibits dealt primarily with the Social Security funds of Tylee and JJ. Did you review financial documents related to Chad Daybell?
I did.
What documents did you look at?
Primarily his Mountain America Credit Union account, including his personal and the business Spring Creek account. But there was also credit cards that were included that we found that we researched as well.
All right. And did you also look at life insurance?
Oh, yes, the life insurance for Tammy, the 2 policies.
Detective, in preparing for your testimony today, Your Honor, if I could have one moment, I think I have the. All right. In preparation for your testimony today, did you prepare another financial timeline that focused more on Chad Daybell?
I did.
And did you do that in preparation? Well, I just asked that for your testimony today. Did you do that in order to aid the jury to understand the financial documents and time frame in which these transactions took place related to this case.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 116.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 116?
I do.
What does it purport to be?
This is a financial timeline regarding Chad and Tammy's finances, to also include information regarding Lori and life insurance and travel information.
And is this this is the document we were just previously speaking of?
Correct.
Is this a true and accurate representation of the document you created?
It is.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 116 be entered into testimony.
No objection.
Into evidence. I apologize.
Exhibit 116 is entered and admitted into evidence.
May I publish?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, can you walk us through the first few steps of this timeline?
I can. October 3rd of 2018, being the first date that I can report that Chad Daybell had purchased a prepaid phone. October 26th of 18, also being the date that Chad and Lori met. On February 23rd of 19, Alex's Barclay card was used to purchase a flight from Lori, or for Lori, to Idaho Falls. March 14th of 19, Lori's Barclay card is used to purchase a flight for Chad to Arizona.
To be clear, that Barclay account, that was Alex Cox's account that she had a card on, correct?
Correct. Originally, it was just in Alex's name, but in March, Lori is added as a card holder to where she had her own card on Alex's account.
All right. And what happened next on your timeline?
April 22nd of 19, Lori paid for Chad's flight to Houston using her BBVA account. May 31st of 19, prepaid phone purchase by Chad. Also June 17th of 19, another prepaid phone purchase by Chad. The death of Charles Vallow, July 11th of 19, Lori's Bank of Hawaii card being used to make the payment to Valley of the Sun Mortuary, and Chad calling Valley of the Sun Mortuary. On July 18th of 19, Lori texting Chad that she'd be receiving the Social Security, but not the life insurance money.
What do you have marked for July 20th of 2019?
That is the day that Lori used her Bank of Hawaii card to purchase a flight for Chad to Arizona. This took place again August 2nd of 19. Lori's Barclay card is used to purchase a flight for Chad to Arizona. August 10th of 19, Lori's Barclay card is used to purchase her flight into Idaho Falls.
And just for clarity, is the Idaho Falls airport the closest airport to Rexburg, Idaho?
That I know of, aside from flying directly into Rexburg.
Let me rephrase that. Is it the closest airport that you can take commercial flights into?
Yes.
Uh, if you can go through the next couple of slides.
On September 1st of 19, this being the move of Lori and the kids to Rexburg, Miss Tammy's increase of her life insurance on September 8th of 19 regarding life map, also being the last known date, last known sighting of Tylee. On September 18th of 19, Chad purchased another prepaid phone. On September 22nd of 19, this being the last known sighting of JJ. On October 8th of 19, Chad initiated a refinance with Wells Fargo. On October 9th of 19, the attempted shooting with Miss Tammy. October 19th of 19, Tammy's death. On October 24th of 19, this is when Chad filed with the life insurance company Primerica. And he also, this is when he canceled the refinance with Wells Fargo. And October 30th of 19, Chad files his life insurance claim with LifeMap.
You can start us on November 1st, 2019.
On November 1st of 19, Chad received his final check and resigned from LDS of Vallow.
If you can pause, what is a vow? LDS of Vallow.
LDS of Vallow, the Chad would write a column for LDS of Vallow. Mr. Chris Perrett is it is his business that he oversees, and he would give Chad a percentage of the fees that he acquired regarding those that would read Chad's column.
And November 5th.
On November 5th, this being the wedding of Chad and Lori. On November 18th, Chad purchased a SIM card and a total wireless phone card. November 29th of 19, this is the trip to Knott's Berry Farms. The information that we acquired from Knott's Berry Farms included a ticket for Chad, 5 of his kids or in-laws, as well as one for Lori. December 20th,
On
19.
those financial records, did it list the names of who those tickets were purchased for?
So Knott's Berry Farms was able to produce copies of the tickets that included the names of the individuals. December 20th of 19, Rexburg announced the investigation into Chad, sorry, let me restate that. December 20th of 19, Rexburg PD announced the investigation. I also noted that Chad had transferred $1,000 each to 3 of his older children, specifically the children that lived near him in the Rexburg area.
And when you say the Rexburg Police Department announced an investigation, what investigation did they announce that day?
At this time, it was the missing of the children. The children were missing at this time and trying to locate the children.
And on January 3rd?
On January 3rd of 20, this being the first search of Chad's property, I also noted that there were 2 transfers to Chad's middle son, Seth, from one being from his business account, one being from his personal account with Mountain America, to the tune of $1,500 to his son, to his son, Seth, that day. March 6th of 20, this is the date that Lori was extradited from Hawaii to Idaho. On March 8th of 20, Chad sells his Dodge Dakota and his Chevy Equinox to his two daughters. They both reimbursed him $200 each for both vehicles. And on June 9th of 20, we discovered that Chad had transferred $8,000 each to his 3 older children that lived in the area the morning of the search, and this being the same date that we located JJ and Tylee's bodies on the property.
Your Honor, they're already in evidence. I'm going to ask to publish States Exhibit 77G and H.
Okay, since they've already been admitted, they may be published.
Mr. Douglas, do you recognize States Exhibit 77G?
I do.
What is that?
This, can you scroll or bring it down just a little bit? This account, end in 3007 would have been Chad's personal account with Mountain America.
And why was this document of interest to you?
So again, with the date, right there, June 9th.
Do you have a pointer?
I do.
You could point to
Yeah.
what you're speaking about.
So June, yeah, twist this here. So on June 9th, there was a transfer of the $10,000 into Chad's from his Spring Creek book account that he had that we'll discuss in a second. The 10,000 making the balance, this 20,000 and change here, and then transfers to his son Seth on June 9th to the tune of $8,000. And then another transfer June 9th to his, the account is in the name of Joseph Murray, but this is also his oldest daughter, Emma's account for $8,000 as well, leaving an account balance of the $4,400.
And this is still 77G, second page. Was there anything of note to you regarding your investigation on this page?
So this one shows the savings account that was associated with Chad's personal account. And on the same date of June 9th, a transfer to his oldest son, Garth Daybell, an $8,000 transfer that date as well.
And this is 77H. Do you recognize this document?
I do.
What is it?
This is the transfer data that Mountain America was able to provide regarding the transfers of the 10,000 into the account that I just spoke of, and then the 3 transfers to the 3 oldest children. And it also includes the date and time of the transfers.
And so I think you've already testified that the date was June 9th, correct?
Correct.
What time, and if you can point, I understand it's small, to the time those transfers were made.
Again, put this thing here. The transfers taking place right here in this area here, right around 9:50 in the morning. And as indicated, they took place Mountain Standard Time, so it would have been 9:50 local.
Your Honor, I have just a couple more exhibits with this witness, but I think they'll probably take more than the 6 minutes. And it would probably be easier to just start with them in the morning. Mr. Douglas, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
When we finished off yesterday, we'd gone over multiple financial timelines, correct?
Correct.
All right. In the course of your investigation, well, yesterday you spoke multiple times about Venmo.
Yes.
In the course of your investigation, did you investigate further into Venmo activity for Tylee Ryan?
I did.
And did you do so in view of the other facts of this case as well?
Yes, I did.
What records did you review in your investigation regarding Venmo activity?
So the original review was of the Venmo in of itself. Tylee had a Venmo account and Lori had 2. And after reviewing the Venmo activity in of itself, I reviewed what is also called the funding source for the Venmo, being the credit cards and debit cards, bank accounts associated with those, or what the funds would have been drawn from.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed States Exhibit 117. Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 117?
I do.
What is it?
This is timeline that I created that I titled Venmo activity that includes the two accounts that Lori had regarding Venmo as well as Tylee's.
All right. And did you prepare that in anticipation of testifying today?
I did.
Did you prepare that to aid the jury in understanding the Venmo activity on Tylee Ryan's account and how it might interact with this case?
That is correct.
Is that a true and accurate representation of the timeline or chart you created?
It is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes, that State's Exhibit 117 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Very well. Exhibit 117 is entered and admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, this chart doesn't all fit at once, so I'm going to start. over
Sorry about
here.
that.
Can you, you talked about the documents you looked at to prepare this. Can you just explain for the jury in a little more detail how you put this together?
So starting in January of 2019, now you can see the three accounts. I labeled the funding sources that were associated with these accounts. As I stated yesterday, Lori had a few JP Morgan Chase accounts, but Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account was the only funding source associated with her Venmo account until September. And this also, the activity, the Venmo also provides who the funds are going to. And as associated would been how that individual labeled themselves in Venmo.
All right. So can you tell us who was Tylee Venmoing money to?
So if you could slide it up a little bit, please. So as you can see, as I labeled from January 7th to August 7th, Tylee's account was associated with her JP Morgan account ending 3918. Her primary Venmo activity was to Colby Ryan, who was her older brother, as well as Kelsey Benson, who is Colby's significant other. Also a friend of hers, two of her friends, this Jillian Kennedy and a McKenna Webb, to which there was only one transaction each.
I'm going to point with my pen. So these payments, is that the number of payments being made?
That is correct. Throughout that time frame, that is the amount of payments associated with that account.
So how much did she send in that time frame to Colby Ryan?
Tylee?
Yes, I'm sorry, that wasn't very clear. How much
No.
did Tylee send to Colby Ryan?
So throughout that time frame, Tylee had Venmoed Colby 4 times for $170 total.
And so you talked about a change in the funding source. Is that represented on this chart?
It is.
Where is that?
If you'll slide it over slightly. And the jury will be able to associate this chart with the chart that we referenced yesterday, Tylee's bank account records, the orange being associated with the orange on that account or that chart, as well as the red being associated with the red on that chart as well. And the funding source, I tried to get as close to even as possible, being changed per Venmo September 10th of 2019.
And was there still Venmo activity after that?
There was.
And you have on here the move to Rexburg around September 1st.
Yes.
And then that you have it labeled Tylee is killed on September 9th.
Correct.
Was there still Venmo activity after that?
There was.
What Venmo activity took place after that?
So the Venmo activity there in the bottom right, starting September 10th, going through December 18th to Colby Ryan.
And do you have an amount that was sent to Colby Ryan?
There were 29 payments throughout that time period totaling $5,940.
And you said that Colby is Tylee's brother.
Older brother.
So Lori Vallow is his mother.
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed States Exhibit 97 and 97A. 97 is a business records affidavit, which is the one subpart A. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just review those quickly. Exhibit 97 and Exhibit 97A are both admitted.
Thank you.
Mr. Douglas, do you recognize States Exhibit 97A?
I do.
What is it?
These are records provided provided from Etsy.
Okay. And what do they show?
They show purchase by Lori on the date of August 15th, 2019 for 2 items with the description of glow-in-the-dark malachite rings, malachite inlay titanium rings.
Your Honor, may I publish that exhibit for the jury?
You may.
Mr. Douglas, if you can show the jury what you were just speaking of.
So the information being provided by Etsy here and the order date or the day of purchase being August 15th for the total value of the $259 shipped to Miss Lori Vallow, and the description being down here in this area.
And was there an email associated with Lori Vallow on that document?
Yes, there is.
What is it?
lollytime@icloud.com.
Detective, Mr. Douglas, I apologize. Did you do any further investigation into this purchase?
I did.
Was this purchase successful?
This purchase was returned. It was refunded to Miss Vallow.
And do you know why?
No, but not at this time for this one specifically.
All right. Your Honor, the state has no further questions at this time.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
You previously mentioned that that we can refer to you as Mr. Douglas. rather
Yes, sir. That would be fine.
Not agent.
No, sir. Not an agent, a forensic accountant, sir.
Okay, okay. I recall you putting up one of the exhibits where it reflected that Chad purchased a phone prior to meeting Lori Vallow. Do you
Yes.
recall that?
I do.
Okay, and what was the purpose of putting that particular identifier on the Tammy's or the life timeline that you created in that situation?
So when we requested the information from Walmart that they provided regarding all the electronics, that being one, I found that substantial because of the continued pattern of the purchase of cell phones throughout the time frame.
Okay, and did you look into what kind of phone that was?
It was provided, yes.
Okay, what kind of phone was that?
I can't say off the top of my head, sir. It's
Okay.
in my reports, but I can't
It's
remember.
one of those, and I don't want to use this term loosely, but it's one of those disposable phones. Would that be fair?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And those either are required for you to add minutes to them, or you just purchase a new one. They're a relatively inexpensive way to have a second phone. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the purchase was inexpensive.
Right. And the continuing purchases of those phones was an inexpensive way to have a second phone, right?
It would have been.
And if you're having an affair with another woman and you're married, that's a pretty ideal way to hide the fact that you're having an affair by using a phone like that. Wouldn't you agree?
If you say so, sir.
Well, it's not me saying so. I asked you.
Well, I never purchased a phone for that purpose.
Well, I didn't ask you if you did, but would you agree that,
It could be used for that,
could
sure.
be used? Right. Okay. Now, you also talked about the number of items about purchases made. Is there any indication that in all of the financial records you examined, that there was any commingling? I guess that's a divorce term. Combining of assets between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow.
There's no indication that money from Chad's account went into Lori's or Lori's account going into Chad's, or
Okay.
no.
Okay. Now, We'll turn to Exhibit 112. And Judge, could I have Exhibit 112? I have a copy, Judge, if you would prefer to.
We've got the exhibit here.
Okay,
We'll
thank
have. Prior, we'll have the court's exhibit. If you'd like the witness to review that, you can have it taken him as well.
Do you have a recollection of 112 or would it help for you to just?
If you pull it up, sir, I'll know which one it is.
If I could use the projector, Judge.
Yeah, it's been admitted, so the projector can be turned on.
Skill level here is at best. Okay, so we start this with 4/3 of 2018. To your knowledge, Chad Daybell wasn't in the picture at that point, right?
No, sir.
And there's no indication that Chad Daybell knew Lori Vallow? Sir?
The reason I put this on here, sir,
I
was
didn't ask you
because
that. I just want you to answer my questions. I don't want.
there's nothing that shows that Chad knew Lori at this time.
Okay, thank you. And at that point, Chad also didn't know Tylee Ryan, right?
No, not that I know of.
And there's no indication at all that Chad Daybell knew Joe Ryan, correct?
No indication that I know of.
And there's no indication in 4/3 of 2018 that Chad Daybell knew JJ Vallow, correct?
Sorry, state that again.
There's no indication that Chad Daybell knew JJ Vallow, correct?
At this time? No.
Okay. And then we'll move on to your timeline of 6/14 of 2018. Tylee starts receiving Social Security payments. Same questions. Chad Daybell, to your knowledge, didn't know Tylee at this point, correct?
That, not to my knowledge, no.
JJ,
Nope,
Lori?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. We can skip Tylee receiving her GED.
Mhm.
10/23/18. Lori opens that BBVA account on 10/23 of 18. At that point, Chad Daybell doesn't know Lori at that point either, right?
No, as indicated below, it would have been 3 days prior to that.
3 days prior?
This account would have been opened on 10/23. Chad and Lori met on 10/26.
Right.
So 3 days
I
prior.
see what you're saying. I'm sorry, I wasn't tracking.
Sure.
That's okay. That was my bad.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
So then we go to 10/26/18. And there's an indication that Lori Vallow came into a life insurance policy as the result of the death of Joseph Ryan. And she received a payment of $64,964.52. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, that's, and I need you to clarify this for me because it's important. That wouldn't have been the time she applied for the insurance money, correct?
No, this is when it was paid into her account.
Well, how
She would have
long?
applied earlier.
Okay, and I'm gonna slow down so I don't interrupt you again, or I'm gonna hear about it. Any idea from your experience how long it takes to apply for life insurance payments before you generally would get those payments?
Well, in my experience specific to this case, sir, Chad applied and he received one check within a week.
Okay. And that was in regards to Tammy, right?
That is correct.
But I'm talking about in your experience with this one.
This one specifically took a little longer from what I remember regarding this.
Do you have a recollection of how long it took?
I don't, not off the top of my head, sorry.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Lori had been anticipating receiving this almost $65,000 prior to the time that she met Chad Daybell or was ever introduced to Chad Daybell?
Lori knew about this before she met Chad Daybell.
Okay. And then on 12/10 of 18, Tylee starts getting paid. And please clear that by the JNS.
JNS Investments, this is her uncle's business.
Okay.
That's the name that they were under.
Okay. And then Tylee begins making monthly payments to T-Mobile on 2/25 of 19, right?
Correct.
Charles, and that would be Charles Vallow, right?
Correct.
Cosigns for Tylee to get a Jeep. And Tylee begins making monthly payments. Okay. Is that fair in the squares I've represented there?
That's correct. Yes,
And then you put down that Charles Vallow dies on 7/11/19, right?
correct.
So what I'm having some difficulty with is this is Tylee's financial timeline, right?
Correct. That's what it's labeled, sir.
And it's talking about Tylee's, how she's spending her money and the manner in which she's spending the money, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And Chad Daybell has nothing to do with any of the transactions above, right?
not on this, no.
Okay. And the only reference to Chad Daybell is you put, well, when they met, right?
Correct.
And then you put that Charles Vallow dies, right?
Yes,
You're not trying to imply that because of financial reasons in this particular exhibit, Chad Daybell had anything to do with the death of Charles Vallow, are you?
what I'm implying on this specific timeline, sir, was where Tylee's funds were going to come from and then what she spent them on. This is specifically to show on Tylee's
Okay.
spending habits, sir.
And I don't want to put an answer in your mouth to testify, but that wasn't really my question. My
No,
question.
because that's not the reason that I built this
Thank you.
timeline.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, you sneak up behind me there. Is that where you went? There was a discussion on one of your exhibits where you talked about Lori mentioning to Chad about receiving a $4,000 payment. Do you remember that?
I do.
What exhibit was that again?
That's noted on a couple. It was on the one that you just handed back.
Okay. And then on the other one, it was.
It would have been regarding JJ as well.
I'm just gonna say both of you are kind of getting into a habit of talking over each other. Please try to avoid that. for our
And if I could have
reporter.
exhibit one.
Mr. Pryor, you just talked right over me when I was
I'm
telling you,
sorry,
to please not do that. Thank you.
And if I could have exhibit 114, Judge. Thank you. Judge, if I can publish this.
You may.
Oops. This is an exercise here. Okay. Maybe not. Hopefully you can read that about the 4,000 month in insurance from. Oh, there. So on this particular chart, this was JJ's financial?
This would have been a timeline regarding JJ's or transaction regarding JJ.
Okay, so the financial transaction regarding JJ, again, you put on there that Chad, Daybell, and Lori meet, right?
I did.
And then a box right next to it, again, you put down that Charles Vallow dies.
Correct.
Okay. And then on 7/18, after Charles Vallow's death, it says something about Lori texting Chad about receiving $400 a month in Social Security, but nothing from the insurance company.
That is correct. And it's 4,000, not 400.
4,000, I'm sorry. Thank you. And at this point, was there any other indication in your investigation that they ever talked prior to that time about any financial matters like Social Security or insurance?
Not that I can recall at this time, sir.
Okay. And this text was in the form of expressing her displeasure about the fact that this is what she discovered after Charles's death, right?
It could be said that way, sir.
Okay. And then we go on to, well, before I go there, there was nothing to indicate that Chad Daybell had any financial interest in that Social Security or insurance at that point on 7/18 of 2019, correct?
I don't know of a response regarding that.
Okay. You didn't find anything that showed that Chad had any financial link to any of those accounts, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then Lori posts a dog for sale on 8/9 of 19, right?
Yes.
And then on 8/12, she names Colby Ryan the insurance beneficiary on her life policy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at that point, at least we are aware that her and Chad are involved in a relationship of some kind, right?
I think that's fair to say.
And yet at that point, she names as a beneficiary on her life insurance policy and Colby Ryan's her son, right?
Yes,
With the deceased Joseph Ryan.
I believe so.
Okay, so she puts an insurance policy on her name, not Chad's at that point, or puts it on Colby's name, not Chad's, for 100% of the beneficiary, right?
Correct.
And then she also previously, we talked towards the end of your testimony about the fact that she made numerous payments to Colby Ryan, right?
Correct.
And that was after, well after the last known sign of life of JJ Vallow, correct?
Yes.
So she was giving, at least in some indication, money to Colby Ryan. And on 8/12 of 19, after Charles Vallow dies, she puts Colby Ryan on her insurance policy. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, then on 8/14, she applies for an apartment in Rexburg. And at that point, she's receiving a bit of money, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then she moves to Rexburg on 9/1. This is going to be a task. Bear with me, please.
All right.
I'm a lawyer, not a audiovisual person. But in any event, then we move on. She moves to Rexburg. And at this point, there's still no financial link between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct.
And then on 9/8/19, when there's a last known sign of regarding Tylee Ryan on 9/8 of 19, there's still no financial link between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow of any kind. Is that correct?
There are no accounts with them associating funds at this time.
And then the prosecutor's assertion that the last known sign of life with JJ Vallow was on 9/22/19. Again, there were no accounts that were mingled at that point, correct?
Correct.
And there was nothing financially showing them linked in any way, correct?
Correct.
And then after the fact that when they got married, again, there was no joint accounts to your knowledge, correct?
Correct.
Not sure how well I would do that. Now, on one of your exhibits, you talked something about a south-southwest wind. You remember
did.
that?
I do.
Okay. And that was part of the email searching that you did as a result of was that part of Tylee's?
Yes, that would have been on Tylee, sir.
Okay. And as far as financial, I found that a little unusual that you would include a Google search for the wind direction on Tylee's financial.
Sure.
Okay, that's not something of the ordinary, right?
Not necessarily, sir.
Okay. But you didn't include the emails after that talked about Mr. Daybell burning some tree lip.
I didn't find that, sir.
Objection, that's a fact, not an evidence.
Sustained. There wasn't any mention of that.
Did you have any occasion to review the emails and when you prepared all of this timeline?
I was told about it, yes. That
Okay.
one I was told about.
Okay, and that's not a fact of significance. The fact that there was the fact that you checked the wind isn't really relevant to Tylee's financial in terms of how the money was spent, right?
Not regard, excuse me, it's not regarding the financial transactions, no.
Okay. So when we're talking about Tylee's financial, the wind direction really isn't relevant to that issue, correct?
Not to that, no.
Okay. And then, so why wouldn't you mention the fact that Mr. Daybell, if the wind issue wasn't relevant to that, why wouldn't you mention the fact that Mr. Daybell sent a text message to his wife saying that he was burning limbs the next morning, the following morning?
Because I didn't discover that, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Now, as part of this timeline, you talked about the financial situation of JJ, Lori, and Tylee. And in none of these timelines, I see a situation or a box where it talks about Lori sort of being out of the picture for a time during these range of events. Were you aware that Lori Vallow had temporarily relocated by herself to Hawaii around February 1st of 2019?
There are transactions that support that. She was coming and going from Arizona to Hawaii, yes.
Well, coming and going, or was she staying in Hawaii for 2
I couldn't
months?
prove that she relocated.
Okay. But you can show that she was in Hawaii at least on around the 1st of February, correct?
Yes, and so was Tylee.
And from the whole time?
Both of them came and went.
And in 2019 also till about the end of March. Would that be consistent with what you found as well?
I would say there's transactions that support that.
Okay. Okay. And then in addition, during that time, did you have any indication of any transactions relating to JJ as to where he was during that time?
I'd have to review. I can't say right now.
Would it surprise you to learn that at about the same time frame of February 1st till the end of March that JJ Vallow was predominantly with Charles Vallow?
He was his father, so it wouldn't surprise me, no.
Okay. Okay. Would that have any impact? Would you be able to determine whether that being separated and the receiver of those benefits being in another part of the country and the child being with the father when the parties are separated, would that cause any financial troubles for Ms. Vallow?
What benefits are you speaking of, sir?
As Social Security?
Tylee was the only one receiving Social Security at that time.
On February 1st of 2019?
Correct. Tylee was the only receiving it.
Oh, I'm sorry. There were other benefits that as a result of the death of Joseph. No, I'm sorry. You're right. That's correct. I stand corrected. Excuse me. Now, we talked a little bit on Exhibit 116, or you did, about a life insurance situation with Tammy Daybell, correct?
I did.
Okay, and on 116, you talked about the map. I think it was Map Life is what you talked about, right?
There were two. There was Life Map and Primerica.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of when the initial life insurance policy with Tammy Daybell was put into place?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Were you aware that that policy was placed, one of the $300,000 policy was put in place back in approximately 2002?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, but you don't have a recollection of that,
Not off the top of my head right now.
and you don't remember that fact, doesn't jar any memory of that fact, correct?
Not right now, no.
Okay. But it wouldn't surprise you, but that's the case, correct?
No, she did have life insurance, correct.
Prior to,
Prior to.
right. And then the amount of life insurance, other than the life insurance from back in 2002 that she had, what about the life map? What are we talking about there?
You're talking specifically to the
Specifically, yes.
increase on 9/8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially she had a base because of the employment at the part-time employment, I guess, as a librarian, right?
Correct.
That, I think that's what it was. So when you start the employment, you get an initial base of about 50,000, right?
That's what it was in the beginning.
Okay, so the insurance was at 50,000. And then on 9/8 of 2019, Tammy increased that to what?
To 130.
Okay, so the increase went up 80,000.
Correct.
So initially, before Tammy started employment with the school, her insurance was 300,000.
There was 300,000 before, and then before she started school.
And
Like
that
you
was
stated.
from some time ago, correct?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Then she started at the school and she had to have worked there for about a year before she was eligible to increase the insurance, correct?
It was a year or two. Yes.
A year or two.
Mhm.
And
I don't know what it was per the rule, but I know it's at least a year, maybe more.
you have to put a probationary period in. You don't automatically get that insurance, right?
Correct.
And that's a financial decision made by the school district. And I would anticipate, right?
That's, yeah, above me.
So then after a year, she can apply for an increase in that insurance from the total of 350 and add an additional $80,000 onto that. Right?
Yeah,
Okay. And they elected to do that, correct?
they did.
Okay. And we don't know who elected to increase that insurance, correct? You weren't part of the family at that
I
point.
wasn't
right?
there.
Okay. And what I find interesting is that typically the school year would start the beginning of September for most school districts.
Most.
Yeah. And that's usually the time when the school districts say, this is your opportunity to elect whether you want to increase your insurance or not increase your insurance, correct?
Yes.
So it's not inconsistent that during the school year, just before the start of the school year, as a librarian or a teacher in that school district, the insurance is elected to go up after she served her 1-year probationary period, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, you talked about on exhibit 776 and 774. You talked about Spring Creek and the $10,000 investment.
Mhm.
And that was money that was put in to Spring Creek. And you know what Spring Creek is, right?
Chad's book company. Yes.
And it wasn't just Chad's book company, was it? It was also Tammy's.
It would have
correct?
been Tammy's too.
It was both of theirs. So we could say that it was Tammy's book company, right?
Yes.
Or we could say it was Chad's book company, right?
Chad and Tammy.
Or what we should say is that it's Tammy and Chad's book company, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then addition, there was some money that was $8,000 payments to each of the children, correct?
The 3 older children. Yes.
Right. And then a short time after that, there was two vehicles, a minivan and then a black Dodge Dakota that Chad gave to each of the daughters as well, correct?
That actually took place prior. So the transfers took place on 6/9.
You're right.
The vehicles were given to the daughters on 3/8.
Right. And subsequent to that, the vehicles were given to the daughters. So now you were aware that, well, we'll move on from that. Lastly, what I want to talk to you about is the malachite rings.
Hmm.
Okay. You made a comment that they were returned. I mean, it was canceled.
Though that transaction, that one specifically was canceled. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you look into the size of the wedding rings in that it showed it up on the screen, the size of the wedding rings?
Well,
correct?
it said 8 millimeters, but that's the width, not the size.
Okay. Okay. And thank you for clarifying that because that was one of my questions. Thank you. Were you aware that shortly after August 15th of 2009, Alex Cox had been proposing marriage to Zuluma Pastenes?
I don't know the date of that.
It's facts, not in the record.
I didn't ask him whether it was facts. I asked him whether he's aware, Judge.
Overruled.
Okay. Were you aware that shortly after that time, Alex Cox had proposed marriage to Zuluma Pastenes?
I know Alex and Zulema got married. I don't know when the proposal took place.
Okay. And then were you aware that also at the same time, Melanie Boudreaux was contemplating the same thing, a marriage, shortly after that time as well? Were you aware of that?
No,
Okay. Okay. But you are aware that there's no indication through emails, text message, or otherwise that Chad Daybell was intending to marry Lori Vallow at that point. Is that right?
in August, the wedding, no, there was nothing to implicate a wedding in August that I knew of.
Or even a proposal for marriage at that point, correct?
Not that I can verify.
Judge, that's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Wood, redirect.
Mr. Douglas, we were just talking about rings. Have you ever seen pictures of Chad and Lori's wedding?
I have.
What kind of rings are they wearing?
They're malachite rings.
Defense counsel asked you about why you put on the search for the south-southwest wind.
Mhm.
Earlier, you testified that as a forensic accountant, you look into factors outside just of the finances in a case. Is that correct?
Yes,
And when you came onto this case, it was a missing children case. Is that correct?
that is correct.
And so, and defense counsel asked you about a text message Chad sent about burning limbs.
Correct.
And do you know what date that message was sent?
I believe that took place the day after on 9/9.
And what was, pursuant to your investigation, what was the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan?
The last no sighting is 9/8.
Defense counsel asked you about the text message between Lori and Chad about the $4,000 in Social Security.
Correct.
So Mr. Daybell was aware that Lori was receiving at least 4,000 at that point in Social
At least
Security.
4,000.
Right. You testified that there's no joint account of Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow.
Correct.
Did they live together at any point?
Yes.
Was that in Hawaii?
In Hawaii, yes.
And just finally, defense counsel asked you about, I'm going to call them burner phones that Mr. Daybell purchased. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And he asked you if that would be a good way to hide an affair.
That is correct.
Well, would that be a good way to hide a crime?
Yes, in my experience.
So in your experience as a forensic accountant, do you see people engaged in criminal activity purchasing burner phones often?
Yes.
And so if someone was having an affair and then the mistress's husband dies, and then your wife dies, and you marry that woman 10 days later, and then the next year, 2 dead children are found on your property, are those the type of events that might lead someone to buy multiple burner phones?
It could.
No other questions, Your Honor.
All right. Go ahead. You can recross on that limited scope, Mr. Pryor. At the podium, please.
And actually, two questions. The financial transactions and issues related to finances with Tylee Ryan and JJ started about or around when?
The financial transactions that I was tracking with Tylee, we got data into 2018, but my charts are indicative of January of 2019.
Okay. And then the marriage and the time they lived together in Hawaii, Chad and Lori, started when?
So they got married November 5th of 2019,
Okay, and they lived in Hawaii together until when?
until she was arrested, I believe,
In January.
in January,
So 2 months.
2 months.
And the financial transactions prior to that went back at least a year and a half.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of Mr. Douglas. Is he going to be recalled by either side?
Your Honor, at this point, he can be released from the state subpoena.
Okay, that'll conclude your testimony then, Mr. Douglas. Thank you for appearing. You can go ahead and step down, and if there are any exhibits on the bench, I'll have the bailiff grab those. I don't know if there are.